You have not downloaded the app. It's called Mentimeter. It's either on your Apple.
Menti.com.
Menti.com.
Just use this point.
Oh, does
point, shoot. It'll take you right there.
There you go.
We're live.
All right.
All right, we're live. So now you.
Everybody act right.
And now you have your agenda.
Yes.
Okay.
So, and just to let you know, the Menti that you're using, we're going to practice voting on it with it today, but it is what we're actually going to use next week to vote for the slate of candidates that you're going to be introduced to today. So if you don't do it now, we need you to, or if you want to vote, then you'll need to do that for next week. Next slide, please. Oh, sorry, could you go back? Christy's not quite there.
And Kim will run around if anyone needs any help.
Kim Adams has been
Raise your hand
instrumental
and
in
she'll
this,
come to
so
you.
she can help you. If you just raise your phone up, she'll come by and give you some help if you need some help. Are we good? If you're not good, raise your phone up and we'll wait just a minute. Okay, we're not good yet. Or was that a yes or a no? That's a no? Oh, it's dialing. Okay. All right, so while it's dialing, next slide, please. So here's our agenda for today. We're going to have our nominating committee report, candidate statements and questions, and the board report, our ministry report. Next slide, please. The treasurer's report for the 2021 financial status, where we are now, and then the 2022 proposed budget. We'll take questions and responses to the treasurer's report, and then some logistics for the ACM voting, and then follow up with a closing prayer. I'm going to pause right here because I would like to introduce Mr. Van English to do our opening prayer, and then he will lead us right into our nominating committee with his co-chair, Lily Chu. Mr. Van, thank you.
Please join me in prayer. Holy Parent, in this holy place, on this holy day, we come to you in this season of gratefulness with thanks for all of our many blessings, and with a request that you be with us as we do the important work of your church, of your body. Let us approach it with spiritual discernment, with clarity, with purpose, and with love. Amen. All righty. As Connie said, I will now ask Lily Chu. We have chaired the nominating committee for the second year in a row, and we have really enjoyed working with each other and with our committee members who helped me name them, if you will. Ashley Bernal. Dominique Williams. Doug Perkins. Daryl Mayon. Bill Russell. Is that all of them? Yeah, that was our committee. Now, yes, thank you. Thank you. Now, a little explanation is in order. Doug Perkins resigned from the nominating committee in favor of running for the board. Okay. And we all unanimously supported him in doing that. And then, of course, we needed someone to succeed him on the nominating committee, so we asked Daryl to do that, and Daryl graciously accepted. So that was our committee. And so you know Doug is now a candidate. We'll segue into our second candidate, who is Veronique Walker. The nominating committee discerned and voted and presented to the board of directors this slate of candidates. Again, Veronique Walker and Doug Perkins, and they will now approach the lectern and have a moment or so to present themselves to you.
Good afternoon, church. I'm going to continue the gratitude theme here in my 1 minute of time allotted. I'm very grateful for this church and for God who brought us here about 12 years ago. We were driving by, saw this beautiful church, and we just knew we had to be a part of it. Our first Sunday, we sat almost in the back row, and we've been working our way up just like the Jeffersons for the past 12 years. So I'm also very grateful for my husband of 10 years, Danny, and my partner of 28 years. I'm very grateful for those of you who have supported me in my efforts in the church and encouraged me and got me to this point where I'm standing up here in front today. So I'd also like to say I'm actually very grateful to even be standing here today, because about 10 days ago, I went to see a surgeon and he said I was too sick to be operated on. So I'm still working on my health. Be seeing another surgeon this week, but it's really great to be right here. So I appreciate your support. It would be my honor and privilege to serve on your board.
Hello. Hi guys, so excited. So I've been going to this church for 3 years with my wife. We started the premarital counseling, and we would not be married without it. It saved us. So it truly saved us. Communication is key. And I want to be a part of the board because this church has fed so much into my life, so much into my wife's life, and together. I want to be able to give back. I think tithing is so much more than just dollars. It's about my time. And if I want this ministry to grow for the next 50 years, then I feel like it's my responsibility to dig in and learn and give my time, my sweat and tears, and my effort. So I'm honored to be up here. Thank you so much, especially to the committee. You guys have been fantastic, and just thank you. And I'm super grateful to be here.
Much for that. And in your packet that some of you have received, or you should have received via your email, or if you have a hard copy, there's also the candidates' resumes if you wanted to have something more specific about their qualities and for the position, let alone their heart and their desire, which they've expressed today. So thank you all very much. Now, if you have questions to the candidates, here's our time to try our Menti. So add your questions in your device. So we're going to be specific, please, about which candidate you're directing your question to, or it can be to both. Some questions are to both. And we'll try to, answer as many questions as we can. And if we don't get them answered in time for the forum, we will then post them via email after the meeting. Okay, so let's see while we're... Oh. Okay, I don't know the code. If you'll say it to me, I'll repeat it. 2709624. Okay. Yeah, 2709.
2709624. If at all during this session, you get
624.
remember that number, it'll let
And just say, sometimes we don't have any questions.
2709624. 27099624.
So just so we'll know if we're not waiting in vain, has anyone asked a question? Oh, good, okay. There it is, Doug has it. Doug, what have you gained most by being at Rmcc?
Well, I guess in the 12 years we've been here, we've really developed what we think is a church home, one where we feel welcome, where we feel at home, and a place that we want to continue our worship.
So there's a question for both candidates. Are you committed to 3 years? And that's to both candidates. So I guess that's a yes or a no. Yeah. Yep. And both candidates nodded their head yes. Okay. We have another question coming in. So for both candidates, can your job affect your ability to be on the board? And that's to both candidates. Can your job affect your ability to be on the board? Veronique?
So when I decided to dig into the church about a year ago, I actually changed jobs. So I changed companies. I'm still in retail, but I wanted Sundays off and then another weekday off. And I wanted to be able to be off by 5 p.m. So every day. So yeah, it's not going to affect me anymore.
It's actually taken me a few years to get up here. For about the past 5 to 6 years, I've been traveling almost every week. So in fairness to the church and the board, I felt that the time wasn't right. And because of the pandemic, I'm not traveling hardly at all anymore, and I feel that I do have the ability to fully participate and serve on the board.
We have another question coming in. To both candidates, what strengths do you bring to the board, and what will be your challenges? Do you all want to just stand up by the podium while we do this? Then you don't have to keep popping back and forth. There you go.
That's a good question. So what strengths, can I see it one more time? Sorry, is that a possibility? Does anybody remember what it said?
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so what strengths do I bring to the board? I think one of the biggest things that I find as one of my biggest strengths is that I try to listen actively. It's very different than just listening, right? Hearing people and trying to see it from their point of view. I tell a lot of people that I work with, like, champion for the opposition, the same way you would champion for your own opinion, so that you can kind of see where they're coming from. And so I think for me, that's my biggest strength that I bring to the table. One of my biggest opportunities, sometimes I will say the group wants this, but really it's what I want, right? And so really taking that listening and then making sure that I incorporate it into my decision 100% of the time.
I think some of my biggest strengths are in management, project management. I have some people skills. I spent about 40 years in government, and I'm not afraid to take control. I spent 35 years working for the Federal Aviation Administration as an air traffic controller, so I usually expected the pilots to do what I said. So, but I'm a little more collaborative in a team environment. So.
All right, and the next question will be coming up. What do the candidates see as the greatest opportunity going forward to increase attendance, both virtually and in person?
Good question. I love that, like I said earlier, the church is fed into us as a family, and I think that's kind of where we need to go as a church, is way more family-style classes, like not just premarital classes, but like kids classes, or maybe parent day off where the church opens the daycare for a day so those stay-at-home parents can have a day to themselves because they are the hardest working people in the world. But just thinking about the family and what can we do to encourage more families to be here, because I think if we want to stay another 50 years, that is definitely the route that we should be taking. Now that I'm 36 and we're having kids and doing all this, and I think that's what's going to push us over the edge for the next 50 years.
To increase attendance, I'll tell you that over the past few years, I've made it a concerted effort into trying to learn people's names. I'm not quite there yet, but I do notice a lot of people's missing from our church services. For those who I've remembered their names, and some who haven't got there yet. But I think there's an opportunity for the church to reach out to them and encourage them to return to church services. I appreciate the board's carefulness and thoughtfulness in keeping everybody safe and getting us back into church. So hopefully we'll continue on that course and making sure that those that are not here eventually someday become comfortable coming back in church services.
All right.
Just ask all of them and tell them to respond like they feel led to.
To both candidates, what is one change you would like to see in our church?
She wants me to go first. Well, I'll make this pretty quick. I would like to see a little bit more transparency into the board. It was been kind of a mystery to me for a few years. We kind of like know who's on the board, but just to get a little bit more understanding to everybody in the church, to the workings of the board, who's on, what kind of, how long they've been on the board, whether they're up for, their second term or whether their term's expiring and so forth. So that may not be the earth-shaking change, but that's just one of the thoughts that I had. Okay, she's ready now.
I'm ready now. So of course I want to see more faces every Sunday, right? And I want to have us come back. I know we're still in the middle of a pandemic, but I would love to have more in-person classes, so I'll be there on Monday, Pastor Troy. But honestly, until I dig into what really happens behind closed doors, I don't really know if I want to say everything that I want to change, because it may already be happening. It may be something that we tried before and it didn't work. So I really just want to be able to give what I can and help where I can, and hopefully change will come that way.
So we have two more questions, so I'm going to read both questions, and then I'll read this first one, and then I'll read the next one, and then I'll let you choose which one that you feel, because the questions are somewhat similar, somewhat. Please share the understanding. Oh, I'm sorry, it's up here. What can you both do to bring the young adults more involved is the first one. The next one, please share your understanding of the fiduciary responsibilities of the board of directors. And I think we have one more. Oh, maybe not. Okay, that may be it. So you'll have to put up the last one, and then the other one is whichever one you need to have seen, just let them know. See, go ahead.
So the young adults question, I think we need to define young adults, so a little bit. So if we want people that are under the age of 25, I think it's really about, again, like I said earlier, getting into those families, because that's how you're going to get them When I was 22, I went to the church that my parents went to. And then anybody over 25, which is kind of my age group, I think it's giving and investing in those classes, investing in just the things that interest us. And what's interests us right now is like buying homes, having kids. So how do we make them feel like this is not just somewhere they can come every Sunday, but somewhere where they can truly invest their time and effort and also raise their family here, because I think that's what's important.
Doug, do you want to respond?
I get the fiduciary question.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Well, obviously I'm just going to be learning going on the board, but I know they have a really a big responsibility to make sure that the monies that are donated, the tithes, the offerings are used in a manner that benefits the community and the church and serve God.
Well, I want to thank both of y'all. We expected to have 3 questions, and our congregation, I think, double that, if not more. And so thank you for standing here and taking questions off the cuff and just doing such a great job. So thank you so much. So our next slide will be our board report, and Jackie Marshall, our vice moderator, will bring the board report to you.
Morning. As the question said, we are the fiduciary arm of the church governance, and that means we have a duty of both financial, but a duty of care. And it's an interesting thing to learn about. But anyway, so the board report is pretty short and sweet. We authorize expenditures. That's one of the major motions that we do at board meetings. And for transparency's sake, our board meetings are always open. You can attend one anytime. The minutes are on the website, and you're welcome to read them as well. Anyway, the last 12 months has been an amazing year. We authorize, because of the blessing of Big Tex Bingo and PPP CARES Act funding, we were able to do things like authorize the completion of phase 1 of the activity building repairs, the purchase of new audiovisual equipment to allow us to be able to broadcast and stream online. We have, and those are really the 2 main things that we've done. The board report is out there for your leisure to read. And I want to thank also our treasurer and senior pastor for negotiating a new mortgage loan at a lower interest rate. That's going to save us a lot of money too. And you're going to hear more about that here in a minute. Those are the highlights. Any questions on the board report? Oh, do we have any questions? No. Nope. No questions. Okay.
We get all this at one time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. And now Reverend Troy Tresh will bring us our ministry report.
So I'm sure everyone has read the long report in their packet. Okay, so almost everything in there is something you can be grateful for, something you can be thankful for, the things that have happened during this year. And this is always a chore I hate doing, is going in back and looking at the whole year. And then by the time I'm done, I'm overwhelmed with what we've done in a year. And I even get surprised saying, was that this year? So I have to go back and look at my calendar and say, yes, that was in the last 12 months that we actually did those things. And so some things I wanted to focus on for you is that we did return to campus this year. I mean, that was a big deal. We returned to campus this year, and we did it in a way we wanted to make sure we had quality worship both in person and online, so that our people would not be left behind who are staying home and worshiping from home. We engaged both Reverend Denise Junius as an interim associate pastor and Reverend Vicki Schill-Hopper as a pastoral care pastor for us, both part-time, doing significant good work for our people. And we also engaged Suzette Cotto to be our digital media manager and Evan Whitaker to be our sanctuary choir director. So these are all new things that have happened in this year. And then the last one, I think there's a few more on these too. Offered a panel for Asian Pacific Islanders. We know that they were targeted more for hate this year, more for violence this year. So Reverend Denise pulled a panel together and we did some education and we got some API people together who hadn't really talked about this before and with each other before. And so we were a place for healing in a moment of need, and I thank Reverend Denise for that. We offered financial support for the Philippines, Open Table, and for every time there's been a flood. I didn't get that in there. We completed the 47th and 49th anniversary commitments for activities, building repair, sound equipment, all of those things. And so if you made a designated gift to the 45th, the 47th, or the 49th for an item, all of that has been purchased, put in place, and we are using it now. So all of those gifts have been made and used. I say that to you because I want you to be confident in what you give your money for is where it goes. And so even more so. So if you gave $40,000 from that anniversary campaign to the sound equipment, the board and you actually through operating funds were able to commit $75,000 to it. The activities building basement level, making it even the foundation, no basement over there, was predicted to be about $50,000, and it came in after the flood because we got at $92,000. So your $50,000 has been put in it, plus an additional $42,000 has been put into the activities building on the foundation level. So all of those commitments you made and how you designated those funds have gone directly where you asked them to be, and even more funds have been put into those. So I want you to be very, very, very proud of that. In 2022, little bullet here, and then I have some pictures to share with you. Our 50th anniversary resurrection, our 50th anniversary. You can save the date. We're going to have a party. We're going to have a party where we dress up all nice and pretty. We're going to have a gala party on April the, correct me, Raymond, 23rd? Saturday, April 23rd, which is the Saturday after Easter. We will celebrate Easter the Sunday before, and then our anniversary celebration will be the Saturday following Easter. So save the date for that Saturday, April 23rd. And on that 50th team, some of those people are up here. Veronique's been helping plan, Raymond's been helping plan, Van English has been helping plan. Who else has been helping plan on that team? Eddie Domain has been helping plan on that. And Annette Beal and Terry Talley so far on that. And so it looks like we're about to sign the contract. Our location will be at the Jaja? Hotel Zaza. You can tell how familiar I am with it in Memorial City. So, but there's other things going to happen too. We're probably going to have a family fair day, and we are hoping to have a special concert. So we're going to be celebrating our 50th anniversary throughout the first part of next year. Come and be a part of that. Now look at these pictures. We're going to flash them up for you to see some of these pictures from our ministry report. There goes a little arrow. Worship, yay, go to the next one. Cassandra and all the teams put together, yay for worship. The next picture, keep going. Z, we already said thankful to him and for Adela and for all of those helping us in worship. 2 new staff members, yay, celebrate. As we go through this, keep going. The pastoral care team. These are volunteers that pray and visit and call and listen. When you submit one of those electronic forms and you say you need a call, these are the people that reach back out to you, our pastoral care team. Next is the noon prayer group. They've been meeting every Monday through Friday, even on holidays, praying the prayers that you send to them to pray for. We have a faithful group of prayers there. This is me on the new elders. I'm one of the new elders for UFMCC. Celebrate. I know they invited me to do that because I'm the pastor of this church, okay? So that's there because I'm the pastor of this church. Pet blessings, part of our ministry. It was an exciting day. Keep going on. Helping people eat. small team went to help while we were all still masked up at the Houston Food Bank to help with that, while Pride Charities does that work daily. And then we're having big groups go to Brunch Buddies these days. Anywhere from 25 to 40 people are going after church every Sunday to Brunch Buddies. Our fence, which has been dedicated, that children's center and fence is dedicated to Reverend Vicki Gibbs. We've been using that fence to put signs on, y'all may have noticed, and they have changed from season to season, so that what we care about isn't just inside these walls, but outside. And then you heard the reports about the activities building. John Merriweather is your director of operations and coordinates the campus care team. They have been painting and changing lights and fixing things and making sure that the ceiling roofs with leaks that happen, all of that's been happened while we've been away and while we've been back. So do a big hand of applause for our campus care team and all that they've done. So this is just one long side of the activities building, and you can see those are people down in holes. Can you see them? Okay, so that was part of what doing the foundation repair was. It had just sagged enough that we need to firm it up and make it stable. The engineer said it's a good building and it's going to last probably longer than the main building. It's a good building, just take care of it. And so we're trying to take care of it in the many ways we can. So the last big one y'all did, y'all funded the asbestos removal, done. You funded the foundation repair, done. And you funded the new boiler for the activities building. 3 things, activities building, done. Amen.
Thank you, Troy. And so now we will have our financial report from Robert Amadon.
Okay. Good afternoon, church. Welcome to the financial discussion piece of today's forum. I'm Robert Amadon, and I serve on your board of directors as your treasurer. Today, we'll first review our current 2021 financial status and then present the 2022 budget that has been approved by the board. Okay, Bradley. I'm going to start with a summary of our bank balances. I'm very pleased to share that in total, we have just over $250,000 in the bank. We have put our longstanding Alpha endowment, which stands at a little over $33,000, into a very conservative investment account at Raymond James. You'll recall that with this endowment, only the interest is earned is available for our use. We also have the Benevolence Fund, which is designated for AIDS-related expenses and causes. Our bookstore account stands at a little over $4,400. The next item on the list is the Foundation First Project Fund. Our project fund is what I term as our reserve fund, okay? This is our rainy day fund. When we receive extra gifts from items such as Big Tex Bingo, or our operating cash account is deemed to be higher than what we're going to need for the forecasted short-term cash, we transfer the surplus to this project fund. We then pull from this account for major expenditures and projects. So as mentioned a little bit earlier here, since our last presentation, a few examples on the use of those funds is in the spring, we spent $30,000 on upgrading our tech team, such as a soundboard, needed equipment for enhancing our live stream services, and for enhancing our camera and lighting. We also paid $93,000 late summer for previously advised Phase 1 work on the activities building that Troy's just mentioned. And we also paid out our annual property insurance premium, which runs around $44,000. Lastly on the list is our operating fund, which is the basic checking account for covering monthly expenses, including payroll, et cetera. Right now it's at $148,000, which is a favorable position for us on our short-term cash needs. Next slide, Bradley. This slide is an income comparison of year-to-date actuals versus budget. General offerings have lagged much of the year and now run anywhere between $40,000 and $48,000 low. Fortunately, our other areas of income you can see listed are doing very well, thus putting it at about $150,000 favorable variance for income versus for the year-to-date 2021. I will point out that in the last 2 years, we've also run unfavorable in general tithes and offerings. However, in the fourth quarter of the last 2 years, and hopefully it will happen again this year, we have exceeded budget and ended up last year going over general tithes and offerings by $12,000 when everything was tallied up for December 31. So we know that there are some that are a little procrastinating with their giving, or they're going through the holidays and they do a final check on their tax situation, et cetera, and what they may want to give to charities. And so we've been benefiting the last couple of years by some pretty good activity the last week of the year. The miscellaneous income of $297 is made up of $62,000 in CARES Act. We need to go back one. Okay. 297 is made up of $62,000 in CARES Act funds that we received earlier this year and was used to cover several weeks of our payroll. $120,000 year-to-date has come in from Big Tech's bingo checks. This is actually made up of really two components. We have $45,000 that has come in, which is quote-unquote expected. We get a monthly check and a quarterly check, and those typically run around $45,000. Although we're very thankful that this year we've received 3 additional donations from Big Tech's bingo that total $75,000. So we are very thankful for our friends at Big Tech's bingo. Also, we have received $28,000 from a winter storm insurance reimbursement related to AC repairs in the activities building, which is in process. The balance comes really from positive efforts for regular leaseholders for campus space and events rentals, which is coordinated by John Merriweather. Okay. Next slide, please. Great. This slide shows our 2021 year-over-year income variance being positive to last year, 2020, by $48,000. Our 49th anniversary initiative accounts for almost all of that $31,000 shown under fundraising, because as we know, a lot of our traditional fundraising in 2021 has been further delayed due to the pandemic. Total year fundraising will actually really be dependent upon a successful Meet Me at the Manger in December. The year-over-year increase in miscellaneous income, which is shown there is $65,000, again tracks to the positive receipts that I talked about on the last slide. I want to applaud and thank those of you that are faithful to your weekly and monthly offering. Our per-person giving is well above last year. The bracketed variance shown on the slide of negative $14,000 really boils down to overall attendance in these times of pandemic recovery. Those here and at home that give, thank you for your faithfulness to keep our Love in Action programs sustainable. Again, overall, we're $48,000 better in income now than we were a year ago for 2020. Next slide. This slide is something that I'm very pleased to show with you. You will recall that back in 2016, we went through a refinance with our mortgage and went with Frost Bank. We took our mortgage down to a 15-year term and a 5.99% rate. This summer, Frost approached us and asked if we would move our operating checking account to them. They could offer us an interest rate adjustment on our mortgage, and we would not have to go through a full refinance process. Anybody that's gone through those knows it can be very tedious, very administrative. They were saying, no, we won't make you do that. That action allowed us to take our rate from 5.99 down to 3.69%, a savings of 2.3%. And we did that for the remaining 10 years of the mortgage, and our monthly payment dropped by over $1,000. Over the remaining life of the loan, the calculation would be that will save the church over $120,000. There was a one-time fee with that of $4,700, which the board approved. It enabled us to make the change, and it really had less than a 5-year payback, or 5-month payback. So our current principal balance on the mortgage right now is at about $764. You recall a couple of years ago, we were at $950. So we're very thankful for the partnership with Frost Bank and their willingness to work with nonprofit organizations. And I can tell you from our experiences here, they are one of the few that will work with nonprofits. So thank you to Frost. Next slide, please. This is where we're going to start talking about the 2022 budget. And first, I would like to, on the next slide, thank again those congregants that made up this year's budget committee: Dr. Tricia Phillips, Dewana Yernigan, Manuel Diaz, Doug Perkins, Eddie Domingue, and Raymond Turner. So thank you, people, for your help with this. Next slide, Bradley. This slide indicates that the total income budget being presented to you is at a value of $915,000, okay, for 2022. Last year's value was very close at $901,000. The components of our projected income is shifting to be less dependent on general offerings. As you'll recall, the struggle we've had, and I just spoke of a few minutes ago, the last 3 years in this area, and it's moving to more reliance on miscellaneous income and the return next year of our traditional fundraising activities. So that would include a couple of our legacy items like Drag Bingo in November and Pride Bingo in June. The general offerings will go from accounting 78% down to 73% of our income. It relates to a decline of $35,000 down to $668,000 committed for next year. The committee is confident with this number and how it was calculated and using actual data. So we're recognizing that our offerings may not always trend the way we'd like, so we're taking the step to move that down, but we're very fortunate to be able to pull upon the fundraising and the miscellaneous income. So fundraising will have a slight increase from $68,000 last year to $74,000 next year, and it's made up of 5 to 6 events that will happen throughout 2022, including the 2 bingos. The miscellaneous income budget includes continued contracts for lease space, more event rentals, and bookstore activities with a return back to what we had seen during pre-pandemic times. Further, as I mentioned, we're very appreciative of Big Tech's bingo in 2020 and 2021, but to be conservative, we've not anticipated that level of donation to continue for 2022. We're hopeful, but we have not put it in the budget. We've been conservative about that. There's also a small amount of income in the budget from our hosting of the upcoming Denominations USA General Conference that we will help host in July of 2022. They will give us a small donation for being here, and we have made the stipulation that by hosting the conference here, our congregation will not be impacted in any negative way financially, and the Committee for General Conference is accepting of that. So, Bradley, the next slide. As our practice is at RMCC, we present a balanced budget for approval each year. So you'll note at the bottom on this slide, the total anticipated expenses are also at $915 for 2022. Reverend Troy and Director of Operations John Merriweather, they've developed this aspect of the expense budget. Salaries and stipend levels have been reviewed and are anticipated to be about $371,000 when including benefits. Insurance coverages and all the general expense areas of things like keeping the campus lit, cleaned, repaired, landscaped, heated, cooled, and the mortgage paid have all been covered in this $915,000 number. Our ministry programs to support our mission statement and strategic objectives, both here on campus, in the local community, and broader beyond that, are funded at least at prior year's levels, or if not more. With 2022 being our 50th anniversary, and to support the committee that has been mentioned here, We needed some seed money, we called it, for their various events that they're putting in place for next year. Thus, we've included $15,000 in the expense budget. So this is the primary reason for the increase over the 2021 levels. So, next slide, please. This slide shows our 2021 year-to-date average weekly attendance at worship to be about 228 people, with an average offering amount of $55 per person. I can recall a few years ago, people, when the average per person giving was in the mid-40s. So we need to give ourselves accolades that the people attending, the number might be down a little bit, but people are being very generous in supporting their church home. So if we assume that our attendance remains at the level of 228, to achieve our general offerings budget next year of $668,000 that was shown, we would need the average per person giving to go up about $1.10, not a huge amount. But if attendance goes up, then we would certainly surpass the budget. So let's all pray for that to be the case. Okay, Bradley, the final slide. Again, just some highlights here. Mortgage repayment remains at our 15-year rate. The current principal balance is at $764. A year ago, it was at $817. We are maintaining in the budget 5% annual ties to the denomination to support our global impacts. We are hosting the General Conference in 2022, which is a huge thing for us to be recognized, not only in the USA, but around the world to being the host church for that. We've made a thorough review of the expenses. As I mentioned, Reverend Troy and John and the board have gone through this, as well as the committee. And overall, it's, I think, a proposed budget. It's very realistic on our anticipated general offerings, our fundraising, our miscellaneous income, given the expenses that we think will incur. So that's the 2022 budget. Thank you.
So if we're going to take a couple of questions because we want to be, respectful of the time that we have planned for this and don't want to overdo it. So if you have a question and you put it on Menti, we'll take just about 5 minutes, and then all the rest of the questions, if they come in after that, we will put on our email and then have and could probably have a more extensive answer on some of the questions. So. Not a big question. Big thanks to Big Tex Bingo. All right, Big Tex Bingo. Yes. If you want to play bingo, go to Big Tex.
This is on any of the reports.
So this is, remember, this is any questions you have about the previous year's budget that Robert went over or report, and then for the budget 2022 that he's just put forth. So if you have a question about any of those. Did I leave something out? Oh, he has a question. Mentioned PPP loan. Did we also look at the employer retention credit?
Yes.
We did?
Yes.
Okay, I'm not familiar with the employer retention credit.
We didn't qualify for it.
Oh, we didn't qualify
We
for
did
it.
not qualify? Okay.
How is attendance calculated? Are online attendees counted or / estimated?
Yes, they are.
Yeah, so let me just tell you how. So unique visits, Facebook, YouTube, and live stream. So it's the smallest number actually, but that's the number we use for online attendance. And then in the space, head count. That's what we do.
All right, so let's take one more question if we have one. Can budget be adjusted to increase funds for spiritual development, connections, and outreach?
The board has the power to resort the budget as priorities change during the year. The budget is tight, so if we change anything from one category to another, we have to choose what we want to lose. It's not just we can change the number. It's we will lose something, whatever category we switch something to. For example, and I'll say this, because one of the questions I answered in my report was We have chosen, at this current moment in history, to go with our part-time contract staff for some of the roles that had full-time people in. We have chosen that because to do the other and some of this, we still need another $50,000, $75,000. So we still need another $50,000 or $75,000 to make that happen. So we're choosing what to do with the monies we have, and to use those monies most effectively as we can. So it's not just a simple thing. Can you do more here? Yes, and we have to make choices.
All right, and our last question is, please confirm status of activities building, phase 1 completion, which I think, okay, I won't answer that, I'll just read. And what is the status of phase 2 and 3? Are we planning to proceed with them?
Sorry. Okay. The board right now is in contract with Newberry Architects for final plans for hopes and dreams for the activities building. John Merriweather is in the middle of the process right now of looking at those plans, and they've invited 3 contractors to actually give us prices on what those plans would be. Depending on the prices of what those plans are, depends on what we'll be able to do. So we're getting those bid at this point in time. We don't expect to have any numbers on that until the new year. It's all moving slow in that industry at the moment, but that's where we are on that. So phase 2 and phase 3 have things to do like handicapped accessibility, bathrooms, kitchen, plumbing, you know, just a variety of things that need to happen. Those will all then be prioritized, looked at our budget, and as we do both of those things, then we'll divide them into stages to see what is doable for our congregation. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So we're in process. We can't really roll it out there yet. We don't know how much it costs. But our 50th anniversary fundraising will go for this purpose. We just have to figure out what specific has the most priority for us to, that we have the capacity to complete.
And that campaign would be announced in the new year.
Right. I expect to announce everything on January 1st.
And also, just a statement came in, we have continued our ties to the, we call it the Mother Church, or the MCC out in, who started us. And I believe this year, and Robert, will you correct me, what are our ties this year are 5%? 5%. So it's 5%. So we have continued to do that, and the church has supported us, and we in turn support that. All right, so we're going to take any other questions online, and we're going to move on because we got to practice. So next week is our annual congregational meeting, and we are going to use a separate voting device, which is you can vote at home or you can vote here. So each one of you has to have your own phone. So if you and your partner are sharing a phone, only one of you is going to be able to be counted in the vote. So we're going to practice voting. So I'm going to read this to you. On November 14th, registration is required. Please register with your name and not your phone's name. Each voter will need a separate voting device, whether voting from home or at church. For example, one household with 3 voters will need 3 web-enabled devices, desktop, laptop, smartphone, or tablet. And a quorum is 67 members is necessary to conduct business. All right, and we will be able to count those people who are at home because they'll be registering also online, so it'll be in-house and on virtually, so who will all be counted towards that quorum. So let's practice. I'm going to ask you a question. There it is. What is your favorite Thanksgiving food?
Two seven zero 9624. 270-9624.
So you can see, as you were voting, you can see how the voting is going. So this is immediate. I mean, in the past, you know, we did deep and wide while we waited for the voting to come back. And now you can see, as you're voting, even next week, you'll see how the vote is going immediately. So we're not going to have to wait, and so it's pretty neat, that's all I'm going to say. All right, your next, so I can't quite see up there, but.
Other.
Okay. Other was the, okay. True. Thank you, Ms. Holmes. Was there anyone in the House who was not able to complete answering the question that we're doing right now? Did anyone have any trouble and were not able to complete it?
Kim, if you'll go over to the wing over to.
Yeah. So Kim Adams can, if you need help. Okay. Yeah. All right, so we're going to do one more time. A phone is up. 2 phones are up. The number is 270. Oh, sorry. All right. So here we go. Which do you prefer at Thanksgiving? Stuffing, dressing, both, or neither? Oh, everybody likes dressing.
We have a question about what's the difference?
Yeah. Well, some people put oyster in it, so that's just a no-go for me either way. Okay, stuffing is what goes in the bird, and dressing is what is served in the bowl that never went in the bird.
So 524.
Okay. All right. That's true. No, that's true. Thank you. So, everybody likes dressing.
So,
Come
one
in, Troy.
point of clarity for y'all. If you don't want to have to enter in those numbers next week, use your camera to use the squiggly code up there, the QR code, and you don't have to punch those numbers in. If you had to punch numbers in, it's because you didn't use your camera to get on the code, and once you do that, you pitch the button and you're automatically in the meeting. You don't have to punch that number in at all. What?
So I do have a question. So just clarification, members are the ones that you vote. So
Correct.
just because you're watching does not mean you can vote. You have to be a member.
So next week's meeting is a voting meeting, and only members will vote. Menti keeps an inventory of everyone voted and their name and that they did vote. It doesn't say what they voted on, but it has the name and that a vote was cast.
I just wanted to clarify that.
Right. You are welcome to attend if you're not a formal member next week. You just won't have the opportunity to vote. Okay, so I hope you join next year. And next meeting, you will have the opportunity to vote as well. We need everyone in this room to return and a few more next week to reach that 67 quorum. Okay, so this would not have been